There are magical elements to that song that I don't feel like we had anything to do with putting in there.
Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
The first song I wrote for the movie was The Rainbow Connection. Oddly enough, everything came except that title until the very end. One of the things Kenny and I did was we set the bar kind of high for Kermit. We wanted to do something really meaningful. And I think one of the greatest experiences ever for me as an audience member was in Pinocchio. When Jiminy Cricket climbs up into a window and it's nighttime, you can see the stars, and he takes his hat off. He looks up at the heavens and he sings, "When you wish upon a star." I mean, it's just stunning. So we wanted to do something for Kermit that just had that kind of impactful moment where you saw into the depth of his soul.
Moving right along in search of good times and good news. With good friends you can't lose. This could become a habit.
The picture is basically a road picture. It's, Hope and Crosby off on the road to love, only it's the Muppets, moving right along. I think it has the humor of the company and it has the excitement of the journey. And of course, because they're Muppets, they wind up going the wrong direction most of the time, Hey, LA, where have you gone? Send someone to fetch us. We're in Saskatchewan. Maybe one of my favorite rhymes ever that I managed to come up with.
Aurora Borealis shining down in Dallas. Can you picture that? Can you picture that?
You don't get to usually write a lot of hardcore rock and roll with the Muppets. Probably as close to that as I've ever come is with Dr. Teeth. There's a period in my life in the mid-60s that I had a lifestyle not unlike Dr. Teeth, so the fact is that I continued the mayhem perhaps longer than I should have, but I'm very open about my recovery. I'm almost 29 years sober at this point and all. I don't know that Dr. Teeth had that kind of background, but I'm sure there's a couple other members of the band that are for sure they had that kind of background, Zoot, yeah, maybe Zoot has been there, but I love that Dr. Teeth was there to help the guys when they needed it.
Never before have two souls joined so freely and so fast.
Well, that was originally written to be sung by Frank Sinatra. When you think about it, it was written in Frank Sinatra language. Never before have two souls joined so freely and so fast. For me, this is the first time and the last. I mean, it was written to be sung the way that he sings it. And I don't remember what happened, but for some reason we didn't get Frank. And then turned around and got an equally brilliant singer, Johnny Mathis, but Piggy. Piggy was like, "I'm sorry, tell the little guy that this is my song and you don't give it to anybody else. If you want to find yourself able to walk out of this meeting," So Piggy got her way, and I thought she sang it beautifully. We're witnessing one of the great classic love affairs of all time. It was, daring love because it's cross species, Interspecies love is, in a movie that some very young people are going to see, it's like it's an opportunity to let them see that it's one love. It was the precursor to one love, which I totally think is an important thing to share with the world. And if there's any cavemen running around out there that don't get it, we need to show them, And so you have this beautiful pig, and this handsome frog who are just made for each other. Never before have two souls joined so freely and so fast.
A skunk was badgered, the results were strong. I hope that something better, I hope that something better, I hope that something better comes along.
The skunk was badgered, the results were strong. I hope that something better comes along. It's not Gershwin, but it's Kermit and Rolf.
Not often you see a guy that green have the blues that bad.
I'm going to go back there someday.
And of course, the first thing you think about is a bunch of Muppets around a campfire. It's time for a campfire song, but we just didn't go there. We started thinking about Gonzo looking at that sky. One of us looked at the other one and said, gee, a fella could get lost in that sky. And we wrote this song about him going back there someday. I'm going to go back there someday. I've never been there, but I know the way. I'm going to go back there someday. And played it for Jim. And Jim was like, well, that's so beautiful. And you get the feeling that he's just looking for the sweetest way in the world to tell you that it just isn't going to work. It's certainly not a children's song, but incidentally, that's the one thing that was clear with Jim. He never asked us to write down to our audience. Write what's appropriate for the characters. Write what's appropriate to the story to move it along. So we'd written this very kind of esoteric thing for Gonzo, and he came back to us a couple of days later. He said, what if at the fair scene, what if Gonzo buys a bunch of helium balloons for Camilla and his chicken girlfriend, and he buys too many and he experiences flight. And it doesn't frighten him. In fact, he's loving it. So he has something that wakes up this sense of how much he longs to be in the sky, or even to the point that he knows that he's been there before. I've never been there, but I know the way. I'm going to go back there someday. So it becomes a song about perhaps even what happens to us when we pass. And the only thing that we hadn't foreseen, which was both an honor but also a terribly sad thing to experience, is that very, very quickly after that, Jim passed. But in his will, he asked that that be played at his funeral.
Life's like a movie, write your own ending, keep believing, keep pretending.
That's my philosophy. I think it's Kermit's philosophy, and fortunately in this one case they managed to go side by side. Life's like a movie, write your own ending, keep believing, keep pretending. We've done just what we set out to do, thanks to the lovers, the dreamers, and I think what's most important is that it turned around at that point and gave it back to the audience and you. This is your story as well as ours.